Hi guys, I'm October, but you can call me Toby. Thanks for coming to spend some time with me today. This is part 2 of my lion amigurumi pattern. If you have not seen part 1, I do recommend popping back to watch that one first so that you're all caught up. We did make the ears, the face, the body. Now in part 2, we will be making the arms, legs, getting some paw pads sorted, and all of the face details, as well as a tail, and finishing off his mane. So let's hop into it. Now that we have a body, let's move on to the legs. To make these legs, I wanted them to be flat at the base so the body can sit down on them. But if you lift it up, I wanted them to kind of be little tubes off the bottom, if that makes sense. That's how I pictured it. To start off, we'll be making a magic ring, doing 6 single crochet into that magic ring, slip stitch back into your first stitch and chain 1. For round 2, it will be 6 increases, slip stitch, chain 1. Round 3, single crochet, increase, we'll do that 6 times around, slip stitch, chain 1. Round 4, 2 single crochet and an increase, 6 times around, slip stitch, chain 1. So into the back loop of each stitch only, we'll be doing 2 single crochet and a decrease 6 times before slip stitching and chaining 1. What this will do, working into the back loop only of our previous round, is it will create a base for our cylinder, so the base of the foot. Round 6, we'll do 18 single crochet around, slip stitch and chain 1. This is repeated for rounds 7 and 8, just to add a little bit of length to our legs. Round 9, we're going to start decreasing the legs a little bit here, the width of them, not the length. We're going to do a single crochet and a decrease 6 times around, slip stitch, chain 1. Round 10, we'll do 12 single crochet, slip stitch, chain 1. Rounds 11, 12 and 13 will all be 12 single crochet, slip stitch, chain 1. Again, we've decreased a little bit, just want to add a bit of length on here. For round 14, I'm not going to show this here because I want to add weighted beads to the legs, and I need to make the little bags before I stuff the legs so that I can put them in. But round 14 won't be around. You'll want to flatten the leg off and line up your 12 stitches. Then you'll be doing 6 single crochet, going through 2 stitches at a time, the parallel stitches. This will flatten off and seal the leg, and that is how it's going to be attached to the body. So once you have done your 6 single crochet across, reducing your round of 12 to a row of 6, fasten off and leave a nice long tail so that you can attach the leg to the body. So I'll show you the finished legs here. You can see the base flattens off because we did those back loop onlys, and it can actually stand up as a little cylinder on its own. Now that the legs are all done, let's make a couple of arms for this little lion. For the arms, instead of starting with a magic ring, I'm going to start with a chain. I want these to have more of a teardrop shape rather than a rounded circular base. To get started with this one, we will chain 4, and we will be doing an increase into the second chain from the hook. In the next stitch, you'll do a single crochet, and in the next stitch, which will be your very first chain, we are going to do 3 single crochet into that same chain. Then we will turn our chain and work into the base of the chain, or work into the underside of the chain. And into the next stitch, which will be the second chain, we're going to do a single crochet, and in the third chain we'll do another single crochet. Now you're going to slip stitch back into the very first stitch that you did for this round and chain 1. You should have 8 stitches going around your initial chain. For our next round, we will be doing a single crochet and then an increase 4 times around. Slip stitch and chain 1. You should have 12 stitches now. Round 4 will be 3 single crochet into the first stitch, 1 single crochet and an increase. We'll do that twice, then a single crochet. Into the next stitch, you will do 3 single crochet. Moving on to the next stitch, you'll do a single crochet, and then in the following stitch an increase. We'll do that twice, 1 single crochet to finish off, slip stitch, chain 1, and now you should have 20 stitches in your round. For rounds 5 and 6, we are just going to single crochet 20 around. For round 7, we're going to start decreasing. So we'll do 3 single crochet and a decrease. We'll do that 4 times before slip stitching and chaining 1. This should leave you with 16 stitches in your round. Round 8, we're just going to do 16 single crochet, slip stitch, chain 1. Round 9, 2 single crochet and a decrease. We'll do that 4 times, slip stitch, chain 1, and you should have 12 stitches. Round 10, we'll just do 12 single crochet, slip stitch, chain 1. Round 11 will be the same. Round 12, we'll do a single crochet and a decrease 4 times before slip stitching, chaining 1. You should now have 8 stitches in your round. For round 13, 14, 15 and 16, you can always make these shorter if you want by not doing as many rounds on the end here. But for rounds, as I said, 13, 14, 15 and 16, we're just going to do 8 single crochet, slip stitch and chain 1. Fasten off and leave a nice long tail because you're going to attach this arm onto the body. Now that that's all finished, if I can get it to puff out how it will when I stuff it, you can see that there's sort of a teardrop shape, loosely a teardrop shape to this arm. It's not a perfectly round little cylinder. I would recommend stuffing the arm at round 10 or 11 where you've got 12 stitches in your round. There's plenty of room at that stage to stuff it as firmly as you would like to. Let's make some cute little hearts to be the paw pads on our lion's little paws. I'm going to use this pink from the Himalaya Dolphin Baby, and it's a lovely dusky pink. It looks really nice on the tan. I'll also be using a 3.5mm crochet hook because I do want these hearts to be small enough to fit comfortably onto the paws. Starting off with the magic ring, this is a really simple little heart. Make sure your magic ring is as small as you can work into. Alright, so we only have one round for this heart pattern. We're going to chain 3, do 2 double crochets, 1 half double crochet, then a single crochet. That forms one side of the heart. We will chain 2 at the bottom here, and the other side is just the reverse. So 1 single crochet, half double crochet, 2 double crochets, chain 3, and just slip stitch back into the magic ring. If you are using the magic ring method, I found it a bit easier with these hearts to tighten them as I went, because the magic ring does ease its way wider as you work around it. So I just tried to keep that as small as possible and then tightened it up as best I could at the end, using the tail from the magic ring itself to tighten up that center section by weaving it through the stitches. Once you've fastened off, do leave a decently long tail on this one so that you can use that to attach it onto one of the paws. If you're enjoying this lion amigurumi pattern, be sure to subscribe because I do plan on doing another one next month. Let's sew these paw pads, our little hearts, onto our paws. I'm also going to embroider on the toe beans because they're quite small little dots. I'm not going to make up individual circles. It's probably going to be quicker to just embroider them on. To make the toe beans, I just picked where I thought it looked good for them to go and simply did a few stitches over one of my crochet stitches, and then for each stitch after that I made sure that when my needle was coming back through that the yarn was on one side or the other of my needle and was then being pulled to the side of the little toe bean to create like a pillowed sort of rounded effect. I also decided to use the dark yarn that I use on the head to create a little bit of definition between each toe, and that's just a single stitch between each toe. Just picked a spot where I thought it looked good and stitched from there down to the paw pad. And that is our legs and arms all done. The tail will be made fully in the tan yarn. And I did start off making this using a magic ring. I made the full tail in rounds. I just didn't really like how that looked. So it was a bit too stiff and just like a long tube. So yeah, it wasn't really giving the vibe I was going for. So I frogged that, and let's start again and do it in just single crochet rows instead. Starting off, chain 5. And then once you have chained 5, you're going to turn and start in the second stitch from the hook. Do 4 single crochet along. So this is a row of 4 single crochet. Chain 1 and turn, And for rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, it'll just be 4 single crochet, chain 1, turn. Once you get to round 10, it's time to widen this tail a little bit. So starting off with an increase, then do 2 single crochet and finish off with an increase. This will give you a row of 6. And for rows 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16, you'll just be doing 6 single crochet. Once you get to row 17, start off with another increase and then a single crochet. Repeat this 3 times. You'll end up with 9 stitches. And then for rows 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 and 24, you'll just be repeating those 9 single crochet. At the end of each row, just make sure you chain 1 and turn. For row 25, increase and 3 single crochet. Do this twice. Finish off with an increase. You'll have 12 single crochet across your row. Chain 1 and turn. Do a final row of 12 single crochet, and that's our panel for the tail finished. You can then fold this in half lengthwise and single crochet along the outside. Now this does get pretty narrow, so if you want to pop some stuffing in at this point where you're single crocheting along the outside, particularly when you get up to the top end, you are more than welcome to do that. I kind of strong-armed it and shoved polyfill all the way to the end. I do wish I had have just put it in whilst I was single crocheting this together. Once you get up to the top corner and you're going to turn the corner, just do 3 single crochet into the corner stitch, just so that it leaves a nice corner on the tail, or if you just want to do 2, it'll round it off a little bit. Once you're all done, you can fasten off and weave in your ends, and that's the tail done. So for the muzzle, we are going to chain 6. Then you will be doing your first stitch into the second chain from the hook. So our first stitch, we're going to do an increase into that second chain from the hook. After the increase, make sure that you put a stitch marker in your first stitch. Just to mark it, it is going to get confusing because we had that chain as our turning chain. We're then going to do 3 single crochet. Into the very first chain, you're going to do 3 single crochet into that chain. Then you will be turning the chain over and working into the underside of the chain. So we're now going to do 4 single crochet into the underside of the chain. And then we will slip stitch back into that first stitch. So the center of this muzzle is 5 chains. On the first chain and the fifth chain, there are 3 single crochet in either of those end chains, and the 3 chains in the middle get a single crochet each. So this will turn into a round that we are working into, and it should be 12 stitches around. As with everything else, we will be slip stitching back into the very first stitch and chaining 1 to start the next round. For round 3, we are going to do 7 single crochet and increase, 3 single crochet and increase, slip stitch back into your first stitch and chain 1. You should have 14 stitches around now. For round 4, 9 single crochet, increase, 2 single crochet, increase, 1 single crochet, and a slip stitch. You can fasten off and leave a nice long tail to attach this one onto the face. To attach the ears, I just sewed these onto the head. I decided to put them with the top of the ear sitting at about round 4 on either side, and then the bottom of the ear, I tilted it back a little bit and then had it finish at round 9, keeping in mind that I planned to kind of curve the base a little bit to create a bit more shape for these ears. So I attached it, the top edge of the ear at round 4, the bottom edge at round 9, and just made sure the ear was curved when I was sewing that on. I have the head all crocheted up and the muzzle, and it's really time now to start prepping some yarn to make this mane. So I decided to use this acrylic yarn, and what I'm actually going to do is unwind it to get the individual threads that make up the yarn, and those will be what I'm using for the mane. So in doing this, I realized that this very stained quilted coaster is the perfect size to measure out this yarn. So I'm just going to wind that around my coaster, and I'll cut at the top there where that mane, like the start of the tail, is. And that will give me my pieces of yarn that I will then unwind. If you don't want to do this method of using an acrylic yarn that you can unwind, you could alternatively make spirals like the ones that I made for my spider amigurumi. You could make smaller than that, but spirals in the chenille or even in this acrylic yarn. So you can see I've cut up quite a lot of yarn here. Now I'm going to just untwist them individually and pull the threads out. You can do this a number of ways. I split this one in half, then split the halves in half again. You essentially just want to unwind the yarn. You don't want the threads wound up in the way that they are, you want them individual. So I'll speed through doing this. I'm not going to make you sit and watch the whole thing. Okay, how am I going to attach this? But the way I worked out to do this one that I liked best was simply to pop them through the single crochets. Often than not, I went in between the single crochets and not actually across them. So you can see I'm working kind of between the rounds more often than not. And then I simply tie them off. And I used just a touch of fray stopper on each knot. So I went through and did this afterwards, and that just kind of like cements the knots in. The fray stopper, you can't feel it, you can't scratch it off or anything. It soaks into the yarn and kind of just like solidifies those knots. And I'll do a little bit of magic here and just snap to the finished mane. So you can see that's nice and full. It's quite long at this point. I do plan to trim it up, but there's no like bald spots showing up. The ears have kind of disappeared, but I'll find them again when I trim it up. Attaching this head to the body actually might be a little difficult now with this mane in the way, but you know, we'll see how it goes. Okay, let's make some bean bags to go inside of the amigurumi. This will help it to have a little bit more weight at the base so that it can sit more easily upright. I'm going to do a bean bag to sit in the bottom of the body and 2 little ones to sit in the bottom of each foot as well. To make these, I'll be using this old camisole that I've got. You can really use any spare material that you've got, and I have I think it's called a panda pencil here. Essentially it's like a wax pencil. To set these up, I'm just going to make some marks around one of these feet to see how wide it is, and I'll do the same thing with the body. I'm very glad that the panda pencil is showing up on camera too. I was worried it would be too pale or too light to see. Now that I have those 2 sizes, I'm going to see if I can find something circular to make creating a circle out of this a little bit easier. And I found this little half capsule, which is perfect for the foot. So I will flatten out this top and make sure that the 2 sides of material are nice and flat. And then I'll draw these circles up. In drawing up these circles, I'm going to make sure to leave space around them because I do need to put a hem on them. So I'll do 1 for the body, leave a bit of space, and do 2 for the legs. I will cut those out. I'll pin them up first so that the material doesn't shift all over the place while I'm trying to cut them. And once they're cut out, I'll repin them so that they'll be easier to sew. To remember to leave some space so that I can actually fill these. Okay, moving on to sewing them. Once it's all set up, I'll just make sure that I'm kind of sitting a centimetre or so in from the edge. I started off with a straight stitch and I moved to a zigzag stitch after. So you can see on this second one, the red shows really clearly that it's a zigzag stitch. It's a fairly small zigzag stitch because I did not want to risk the beads coming out at any point. And I probably did not leave enough space to make adding the beads in easy. And that's just me not being very good with sewing. So I'll do this last one up. It's all done now, so all those pins have been removed. I'm just going to cut off the excess thread because I went back over, so I don't need to do any knotting or anything on these right now. Back at my desk, and these are the beads that I'm going to fill this with. They're just a little recycled plastic bead. I'm going to cut the edges of these to make flipping them a little easier, and then I'll just use my crochet hook to flip them inside out. Thinking about it, I really didn't need to bother since they do just live inside of the toy. Like, there's no need to actually flip them inside out if you don't want to. You can save your effort on that step. And as I predicted, I did not leave enough space, and putting these beads in was difficult. I ended up having to do it off camera because it just was going so slow. I made this nice little funnel. The beads just kept getting trapped in the bottom and not shifting, and it's quite difficult to get the beads to actually go into these. And it actually got more difficult with the smaller ones. Once you have them as full as you want them, you could take it back to the machine and sew it off if you've got a machine. I'd packed mine away at this point, so I just hand stitched these clothes. Now that the bead bags are all sewn up, I can actually take the legs and body and pop these in. I'll do a thin layer of polyfill before I pop them in, just so that the bottom of the legs and body don't feel hard with beads. Like, I want a little bit of padding there first. So a little bit of polyfill first, and then you can pop the bead bags in and fill the remainder with polyfill. Lovely, and I already stuffed the arms off camera because I wasn't planning to put any bead bags in those. So you can see how this is starting to come together, and I'm really happy with how it's looking. It's looking so very cute. I'm excited to actually attach these all together. I'm going to attach the muzzle now before the head is stuffed full of stuffing. Now for my positioning of the muzzle, I decided that I wanted it fairly low on the face. I positioned it at round 9 for the top of the muzzle and round 14 for the bottom, so like one round above the very bottom round. I centered it as best I could on the face and just started sewing that on. Before sewing all the way around, I made sure to stuff this full of polyfill and then finish sewing it on. Now it's sewed on and it's stuffed, but it's kind of just a blob on the face at this stage. I wanted a little more shape to it. So I decided what I would do is use this lovely long tail I have and to create a little bit more definition by just coming up through the very bottom in the center and then finding a stitch in the center. I did this, I think 3 or 4 times, making it further up each time and just pulling that nice and tight to create the shape of the muzzle. Alright, now that I have legs, arms and the body all stuffed, I can actually attach the arms and legs to the body now. So I'm just going to lay everything out, have a look at how I want to attach it, and I'm going to start off with the arms. Keeping in mind that you want this paw to lay flat against the body, like maybe you want the paw pads to face forward. Just make sure that however you flatten the 2 rows of 4 together on the top here, that it's going to position how you want it to against the body. And I ended up attaching the arms on 3 rounds down from the top of the body and a stitch back from the white tummy section. So it is completely up to you how far back around the body you want to do these. I thought this was a good spot, made them nice and symmetrical on the body and even. The arms are on and I love how this looks. For now I'm going to move on to the legs. I sewed the legs on personally between round 2 from the starting round on the bottom there to down to like about round 7, just on a slight angle. Play around with the positioning. If you do your legs shorter or longer, you might want to put them at different spots on the bottom. Just put them one on one side and one on the other side. Make sure that they look symmetrical is the word I'm looking for. Make sure they look symmetrical when you attach them on. There's plenty of space on the bottom to attach these, so. Alrighty, body is stuffed, arms and legs are attached, head is stuffed, the muzzle's on and stuffed, the mane is on. It's time to attach the head to the body. So, not the best angle here, but I sat the body up, plopped the head on top, and I'm loving that the white muzzle leads straight down into that white stomach area. That looks really nice. The mane is way too long at this stage and is going to be a bit of trouble in attaching this, but regardless, I'm just looking at this, looking how it looks, and it's a little bit squat for my liking. The body is perfect at this stage for the length I wanted it, but when I pop this head on, it's just looking a bit necklace, if that makes sense. Not necklace like jewelry, like lacking neck. So what I decided to actually do was add on an additional round to the body. And I did follow the same pattern of the last round. So it was 8 single crochet in tan, 5 single crochet in white, 5 single crochet in tan, slip stitch back into the first stitch and fasten off, leaving a nice long tail. I actually ended up finishing in white for this one because of where I tied my yarn on. And that's convenient because that means I can sew on that bit of white at this stage and then just use the tail to cover up any tan that I can see under the muzzle. So I've got 5 or so stitches here that I'm going to do, and that's conveniently the same amount that I'm seeing in tan on the head here. So I'm going to use my wool needle to actually sew this section on first, and then I'll work around in the dark brown yarn tail that I left on the back of the head. I'll work around just using that to sew onto the tan, making sure to leave a gap so that I can add some additional stuffing, because I did add a bit of extra neck on here. And then I will finish sewing that on in the dark brown yarn. Tie off, weave in my ends. Let's move on now and make up this tail and pop it on. And then the last stage will be the embroidery. So let's move on to the tail. Now that we've made the tail, we might as well attach that straight away. I did end up removing a bit of stuffing from the end of my tail. I think I just overstuffed this, essentially it made it too stiff. I decided to tilt mine, like you have options in making this, the tail kind of curves a little bit. So you could curve it up, you could curve it to one side or the other. I decided to curve it towards the left. That just appealed to me more. So I positioned it on the body, like sitting the body up. I positioned it so that it would help support the body in a sitting position. I ended up putting mine on from round 6 to round 9, just centered in the back between the legs. And I just stitched this on using a piece of tan yarn. To add fluff to the end of the tail, just cut up some smaller pieces of yarn, prep them by unwinding them into their individual threads, and then tie those onto the tail until you have a little tail floof that is as thick as you want it. You can make this as long or as short as you want to. I made mine a little bit longer and then I trimmed it up just a touch. I didn't want to have too much floof on the tail, so I kept mine fairly simple, but you could add on as much or make the tail longer and put on more fluff at the end, or just put more fluff so like that it's thicker, but that's completely up to you on how thick or how long or how much you want to pop on. I was happy to just do a couple rounds down from the tip of the tail. Okay, moving on to embroidering his little face. I'm going to do the nose first for him. And I was debating on if I made a little heart in the same way that I did the paw pads, but I decided to just embroider on a little sort of heart-shaped nose. I think the paw pad hearts might have been too big to be a reasonable nose for him. I decided to do this in the dark brown yarn that I was using for the back of the head under the mane. I think black would have been too stark and pink would have been too big of a shift from kind of the general color palette. So I went with the dark brown yarn. You can use whatever you'd like for the nose. Just embroidering on a simple little heart shape and then thickening that up until I'm happy with how full it looks and the shape. And we'll move on to a little bit of face shaping and embroidering the eyes. Now I've worked out where I want to put the eyes. Now that the head has some shape to it, the muzzle's on, everything's on the body, I can kind of get a good look at how this eye placement will look. So I've decided to go 2 rounds up from the muzzle and leave 4 single crochets in between the eyes. Now to give the face a little bit of shape, I decided, using the same acrylic yarn that I used for the mane, I went in from the back of the head, poking that needle all the way through the head and coming out on one of the eyes, stitching across where I expect to put the eyes, coming back out of the face at the other eye, doing the same thing and going all the way back through to the back of the head. Now that I have these 2 stitches, you can see I am going to just make sure they're positioned where I want them, and I'm going to pull on them to shape this face out a little bit. So this is the first time I've sort of tried this out, and I'm sure with practice and getting used to it I could do better on my face shaping. But yeah, I saw this method used by someone else making an amigurumi in some shorts I was watching the other day, so I thought it might be good to give it a try here. So I'm just going to tie off the yarn at the back of the head here, making sure that I'm keeping the tension on it at the front so that it is pulling in those little eye divots and creating that little bit of additional shape to the face. Then I'll embroider over these points so you won't see these 2 stitches. You can barely see them now. It's not a huge change, but I think it does make a little bit of a difference, and with more practice at doing this, I think I could make it look better next time I attempt it. Now I have my eye divots, or my face shaped. I have embroidered the little nose, and that's such a nice little heart shape. And now it's time to embroider the eyes. So I decided I would do black pupils, a little bit of blue for the iris, and then white, a little bit of white around the outside for the sclera, and see how that looked. Yeah, I didn't want to do like a cat eye. I was sort of thinking about doing an eye like you'd see in The Lion King, where it's mostly just pupil and iris, but I thought that would look a little bit funny without all the detailing of like outlines and things. So yeah, I decided to try this out, see how it looked. So I'll just go in with the black first, creating the pupil, and then I will build out the iris and then around that, and then the sclera around that. Now I have that in place. It's fairly even. I'm going to put a little eye shine in each eye, just using the white, and that will go on the pupil and close to the iris. Now I do like how this is looking, but I decided I wanted a little more definition on them, so I went back in with the dark brown chenille as well and just outlined the outer half and top edge of the eye, just to create a little bit more shape on them. Eyes are all done. You can see I've added that dark brown in around the outside. Nose is on. Everything's attached together. He's looking so cute. I'm really happy with how this is coming together. So he's all together, everything's embroidered, and he's got this rockin' head of hair. Couldn't help but give him a bit of a headbang session here. He's really fun to flop around with his hair this long, his mane this long, but it's time to trim it up a little bit. The way I'll do this off camera because I need to get a bit closer and shift him around a heap to trim this up, but the way I did this was I just worked out the length I wanted it at on the face, the length I wanted it at the bottom of the head, and then I just worked on making it spherical from there. Lots of little cutting up on the diagonal and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm loving how he's looking. I did love the really long mane, but I also love him with this shorter mane. And you can see just how much yarn I took off. And it was littered over everything. My floor is an absolute mess. It was all over everything on my desk. Yeah, I had to do like a full-on cleanup after this. But he's worth it. He looks so sweet. I hope you enjoyed my process and creation of this little lion amigurumi. I really enjoyed making him, and I'm very happy with how he turned out. He's very much how I imagined him, especially with his fluffy mane and without using safety eyes, so I don't have to worry about the safety of that with my little nephew. There are a few things I could have done differently with him. I could have used safety eyes. I could have done the mane differently using a chenille yarn and either curly, like doing swirls, or perhaps using a puff stitch to create a mane, or even just chains and slip stitching back along them. So there's lots of different things I could have done for the mane, but I'm really happy with how he turned out. Tell me what you think of him. And if you have a go at this pattern, please let me know. I'd love to see photos. You can tag me on Instagram or TikTok. And yeah, let me know if you have any trouble with the pattern. All right. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.